feel it would throttle me. If I hit the wall with my hand or did a few calisthenics or otherwise pushed myself as an athlete does, I could briefly block the pain. But at its most muted, I could still feel it like an intravenous drip entering my bloodstream. And it was always there in my stomach. That was its epicenter. I wrote this word epicenter makes me nervous because I wrote this after the big Istanbul earthquake, like all people of Istanbul busy with earthquakes. So, despite all its tangible manifestations, I knew that the pain emanated from my mind, from my soul. But even so, I could not bring myself to cleanse my mind and deliver myself from it. In experiencing such feeling, I was like a proud young officer ambushed in his first command, forced into a mental rout. And it only made matters worse that I had hope. With every new day, new dreams, new reasons that Füsun, the name of his beloved, might appear at Merhamet apartments, where they have met for some times and made love before marriage. Which, let me read, Füsun might appear at Merhamet apartments, which, by making the agony bearable, prolonged it. So this was from the 150th page of the book. So I've skipped another 50 pages, during which we see lots of other events too, a sort of a panorama of Istanbul upper class, middle class, various institutions, journalists, business people. It's a panoramic novel, really. It's sort of a fresco. That's what I wanted to do. Then, here again, we're following the narrator's love issues. Now he thinks he had found a solution. He is also engaged to someone else, a bit embarrassing situation, and trying to hide it. Then he thinks, as we all do in these situations, he thinks he had found something. Or maybe I shouldn't judge him, just tell you the story. To be sure, those painful September days had their dark beauty, and as the month wore on, I discovered an important new way of making them bearable. If I swam on my back, the pain would ease. To make this happen, I had to throw my head very far back to a point where I could see all the way to the bottom of the Bosphorus, but upside down, and I had to carry on swimming in this attitude for some time without coming up for air. As I backstroked through the current and the waves, I would open my eyes to the inverted Bosphorus changing colors, fading into a blackness that awakened me to a vastness altogether different from the boundless pain of love, offering me a glimpse of a world without end. Because the Bosphorus is so deep, so close to the shore, there were times when I could see the bottom, and at times I couldn't. But to glimpse this brilliantly colored realm, albeit upside down, was to see a great, mysterious whole, at whose sight one could not but rejoice to be alive, humbled at the thought of being part of something greater. Gazing down at the rusty cans, the bottle caps, the gaping mussels, and even the ghosts of ancient ships, I would contemplate the vastness of history and time, and my own insignificance. At times like these, I would notice that I could enjoy concentrating on my love and being absorbed by it, exposed and grieving ever more deeply. I could cleanse my soul. What mattered was not my pain, but my connection with this mysterious infinity shimmering beneath me. As the waters of the Bosphorus poured into my mouth, my throat, my ears, my nostrils, I could tell that jinns inside me, governing equilibrium and happiness, were well pleased. A sort of sea drunkenness would overtake me as I propelled myself backward, stroke after stroke, until there was no pain in my stomach at all. I would feel a deep compassion for Füsun, his beloved, welling up inside me at that same moment, and this reminded me of how much anger I felt too. Seeing me racing backward towards a Soviet oil tanker or a city line ferry anxiously tooting its horn, Sibel, now his fiancée who's with him in the same house, would jump up and down on the shore, frantically calling to me, but most of the time I would not hear her cries. In this habit of swimming so dangerously close to the steady procession of city line ferries, international oil tankers, cargo ships laden down with coal passenger boats and barges distributing beer and meltem to Bosphorus restaurants, almost as a challenge to those vessels, great and small, Sibel saw an unhealthy impulse, and in her heart she wanted me to stop bobbing backward in the Bosphorus in front of the house. But knowing what good it did chasing away the pain, she didn't insist. So we see the situation. They are living, fiancé and our narrator, and his fiancée in the same house. Obviously, he is in love with someone else. They sense it. It is a bit of a... then the summer ends, and then some people go back to their upper class, which the book occasionally refers to as, with irony, called high society. Some of the people go back to their winter houses, some stay. It's like maybe going back to winter from Florida to New York, from Long Island back to Manhattan. But they like the melancholy of approaching cold fall and winter days, and they stay, perhaps because they're troubled and they don't want to face the society. They are so gloriously happy to belong. After that night, we had both become resigned to the fact that I was never going to get over my obsession. It was clear that strict regimens and prohibitions had been useless, though we still enjoyed living together in this once grand, now crumbling mansion. However hopeless our situation, there was something about this decrepit house that bound us together and made our pain bearable by endowing it with a strange beauty. The mansion added gravity and historical depth to this doomed love of ours. Our sorrow and defeat were so great that the vestigial presence of a vanished Ottoman culture could furnish what we had lost as old lovers, as a newly engaged couple. The world evoked, protected us somehow from the pain we felt at being unable to make love. If of an evening we set up our table beside the sea and resting our arms and our elbows against the iron balcony rail, drank yeni rakı together and found our spirits lifting, I would sense from the way Sibel looked at me, his fiancée, at me, that in the absence of sex, the only thing that could bind us together was marriage. Weren't there plenty of happy married couples, not just in our parents' generation, but in our own, who led chaste lives together as if everything were normal? After our third or fourth class, we would play guessing games about young and old couples we knew, sometimes from a distance, sometimes more intimately asking each other, do you think they still do? And giving the question half serious consideration. Our mockery, which now seems so very painful to me, owed a great deal, no doubt, to a dubious supposition that we would soon be returning to a satisfying love life. In our strange complicity, and in these conversations that walled us off from the outside world, there was the veiled aim of convincing ourselves that we could marry in this condition and peacefully await the return of that sex life of which we had once been so proud. From mid-November onward, whenever we awoke on a windless night, raw from misery or thirst, because we had so much to drink, we began to hear a fisherman splashing around in his rowboat just beyond our closed shutters, moving through the still waters of the Bosphorus, casting his net. Sometimes the boat would drift beneath our bedroom. Accompanying this quiet, soft-spoken fisherman was a slim little boy whose voice was sweet and who did everything his father asked. As the lamp hanging from the bare boat filtered through our shutters, casting a lovely glow on the ceiling, We could hear the sound of their oars cutting into the silent water, and the water and the